नमः। पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ सर्वं वै पूर्णगस्वाहा। ॐ सर्वं वै पूर्णगस्वाहा। ॐ सर्वं वै पूर्णगस्वाहा। ॐ वसोः पवित्रमसि शतधारं वसोः पवित्रमसि सहस्रधारं देवस्वा सविता पुनातो वसोः पवित्रेण शतधारेण सुत्वा कामदुःखः स्वाहा। ॐ त्र्यम्बकै यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् विसर्जनम्। गच्छ गच्छ सुराश्रेष्ठा स्वस्थाने परमेश्वर यत्र ब्रह्मादयो देवा तत्र गच्छ हुताशना। यान्तु देवगणाः सर्वे पूजामादाय मामके इष्टकामसमित्यर्था पुनरागमनाय च पुनरागमनाय च पुनरागमनाय च। बोलिए श्री नारायण भगवान की जय। ओम तस्य श्री ब्रह्मार्पणमस्तु।
गोविंदे बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो।
श्री राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोलो
श्री राधा रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो।
गोविंदे बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो।
गोविंदे बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो।
गोविंदे बोलो गोपाल बोलो
गोविंद बोलो गोपाल बोलो।
गोविंदे बोलो बोलो गोपाल बोलो
गोविंद बोलो बोलो गोपाल बोलो।
श्री राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोलो
राधा रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो।
श्री राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोलो
राधा रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो।
हरि बोल
हरि हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि हरि बोल
हरि बोल
हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल।
गोविंदे बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो।
श्री राधा हरि गोविंद बोलो।
राधा रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो।
श्री राधा रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो।
राधा रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो।
राधे
राधे राधे
राधे
राधे राधे
राधे
राधे राधे
राधे
राधे राधे
कृष्णा
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 कृष्णा कृष्णा
कृष्णा
कृष्णा कृष्णा
कृष्णा
कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्णा राधे कृष्णा।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
दुर्योधन को मेवा त्याग्यो।
दुर्योधन को मेवा त्याग्यो।
दुर्योधन को मेवा त्याग्यो।
दुर्योधन को मेवा त्याग्यो।
साग विदुर घर खाए।
हरि बोल।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
प्रेम की बस अर्जुन रथ हाक्यो।
प्रेम के बस अर्जुन रथ हाक्यो।
प्रेम की बस अर्जुन रथ हाक्यो।
प्रेम के बस अर्जुन रथ हाक्यो।
भूल गए ठकुराई। सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
बिलन के बेर सुदामा के तंडुल।
बिलनी के बेर सुदामा के तंडुल।
बिलन के बेर सुदामा के तंडुल।
बिलनी के बेर सुदामा के तंडुल।
रुचि रुचि भोग लगाई। सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
ऐसी प्रीत बड़ी वृंदावन।
ऐसी प्रीत बड़ी वृंदावन।
ऐसी प्रीत बड़ी वृंदावन।
ऐसी प्रीत बड़ी वृंदावन।
गोपियन नाच नचाए। हरि बोल। सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
सबसे ऊंची प्रेम सगाई।
हरे रामा हरे रामा
रामा
रामा रामा हरे हरे हो।
हरे राम 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 हरे हरे हो।
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे हो।
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे हो।
हरे रामा Krishna Krishna Hare Hare ho
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare ho
Jai Ma Gange Jai Ma Gange Jai Ma Gange Jai Ma Gange ho जय मां गंगे जय मां गंगे जय मां गंगे जय मां गंगे हो हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे हो
हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे हर हर गंगे हो हर हर गंगे
गंगे माँ
गंगे माँ
गंगे माँ
गंगे माँ
गंगे माँ
गंगे माँ गंगे माँ गंगे माँ
गंगे माँ गंगे माँ गंगे माँ गंगे माँ
गंगे माँ गंगे माँ
हे माँ हे माँ हे माँ हे माँ हे माँ हे माँ हे माँ हे माँ हे माँ हे माँ बोलिए सर्वेश्वर भगवान की गंगा मैया की भारत माता की गौ माता की हर हर महादेव हर
Param Pujya Swamiji, all of our sisters and brothers from across the country and across the world who are joining us here for our sacred Ganga Aarti. This is that sacred and holy time each day when we have the opportunity to come together and be truly in the lap of the Mother, the lap of the Mother Goddess Ganga, who comes to us forth, flowing from the Himalayas, carrying life, liberation, divine connection in her waters. Today is the second day of our International Yoga Festival. Usually this time, these ghats are full. They're packed with our family from across the world who come together to Ma Ganga's holy banks to do yoga together, to learn, to pray, to meditate, to celebrate, to truly experience that divine oneness, that truth within the self, that union of the self with the divine, the union of the self to the Creator and to the creation. This year, sadly, because of the COVID pandemic, our international sisters and brothers are not able to be physically with us. But with this beautiful technology, through the wonderful camera and the wires, sitting in their rooms, in their homes, around the world, sabhi hamare saath jod rahe hain. Pura vishwa se, alag-alag desh mein, alag-alag gard mein, alag-alag kamre mein, uni ki kamre mein, uni ki gard mein बैठते हुए वो इंटरनेट के माध्यम से हमारे गंगा जी की आरती साथ ही साथ ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं. And the most beautiful piece is क्योंकि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग योगा फेस्टिवल में अमेरिका बेस्ड है, तो हमने इसको यूएसए की टाइमिंग के हिसाब से किया. इसका मतलब है कि रोज उनकी दिवस गंगा जी की आरती से शुरू होती है. अपना शाम है लेकिन अभी वहाँ पे सुबह सुबह है. तो every day, the very first thing of the International Yoga Festival schedule is our sacred Ganga Ji ki Aarti. So, such a beautiful welcome to all of you and to all of our Yoga Festival family joining us from around the world. And also, आज International Women's Day है. जिस दिवस, when we come together to celebrate, we celebrate the divine feminine. We celebrate that mother goddess. What better place to do it than here on the banks of Mother Ganga? This beautiful, physical, tangible form of the mother goddess here on earth. But on International Women's Day, we celebrate the presence of the mother goddess, not only in our Ganga Ma, not only in our Devis who we worship, Ma Durga, Ma Saraswati, Ma Lakshmi, but also in every girl, in every woman. हर लड़की, हर नारी शक्ति में वो देवी की शक्ति. We worship that, we celebrate that, and we remind all of our sisters all over the world, and all of our mothers all over the world, our daughters all over the world, that in you is the divine. Tragically, for too long, the girls and the women have been told just that you are a body, you are the color of your skin, you are how beautiful you are. You should be a little fairer, a little fatter, a little thinner. थोड़ा सा मोटी हो जाते हो तो कितना अच्छा रहता. अगर थोड़ा सा weight lose करोगे तो और सुंदर हो जाओगे. No. Women, these divine Shaktis are not just the bodies. They are the incarnation of the Divine Mother Goddess. They are the presence of Lord Brahma here on earth. हम कहते हैं that Lord Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the sustainer, Shankar Bhagwan is the dissolver. But Lord Brahma का काम धरती पे कौन करते हैं? मातृ शक्ति. Creation का काम किससे होती है? नारी शक्ति से. Brahma has given that blessing, that shakti, that power into the bodies of women here on earth, of every species. It is the women who are the bearers of creation. So on this International Women's Day, we celebrate the presence of the Mother Goddess. But along with celebration, we need reflection and dedication. We need to reflect on how much more is left to be done in the way of gender equality, in the way of women's rights, in the way of ensuring that our women and our girls are protected. हम किसी नारी को एम्पावर करना कोई आवश्यकता नहीं है। उनमें शक्ति है, ऐसे नहीं कि हम उनको शक्ति दे रहे हैं एम्पावरमेंट के द्वारा। नो, हर नारी में इतनी शक्ति है, लेकिन we have to create the space in which she is safe, in which she is treated with dignity and respect and love. Guard may be, schools may be, offices may be, samaj may be. When the Nari Shakti truly understands, recognizes her own power, blossoms in that power, in that divine Shakti, then not only the country, but the entire world changes in the most powerful and beautiful ways. So today, on this International Women's Day, we commit ourselves to ensuring that our women and our girls are safe. Jo hum mandir mein माँ दुर्गा या माँ लक्ष्मी की मूर्ति को कभी नहीं करेंगे, हम अपनी माँ को, अपनी पत्नी को, अपनी बेटी को कभी नहीं करना चाहिए। अब सोचो, would somebody even imagine walking into a mandir and hitting the image of Ma Lakshmi, hitting the image of Ma Durga, hitting the image of Ma Saraswati? क्या सोच भी सकते हैं? सोच भी नहीं सकते हम लोग। तो हमें याद रखना है कि अपने घर में, अपनी समाज में, हर लड़की, हर नारी में वो मदर गॉडेस की शक्ति है। माँ दुर्गा उनमें ही रहती है, माँ सरस्वती उनमें ही रहती है। So let us today, on this sacred and beautiful day, especially during the time of our International Yoga Festival, let us pledge and commit that which we would never do to an image of the Divine Mother Goddess in our temples, we will never do to our wives, our daughters, our mothers, our sisters. And that same reverence and love that we have for the Mother Goddess in our mandir, we will have for the Mother Goddess in the form of all of the women in our lives. Or lastly, that we will remember apani Ma Ganga, apani Mother Nature, apani Mother Earth. वो भी divine शक्ति है, वो भी मदर गॉडेस है। तो अपनी धरती माँ को, पृथ्वी माँ को प्रोटेक्ट करना, प्रिजर्व करना, सर्व करना, we must ensure that we are protecting, preserving and serving that sacred mother goddess, sacred divine feminine in all of her forms of Mother Earth and Mother Nature. When we really can do that, then that Shakti, those blessings will be upon all of us. तो मैं सबसे निवेदन करूंगी, I'll ask everyone कि हम साथ ही साथ हाथ उठा लेंगे International Women's Divas पर, हम साथ ही साथ संकल्प करेंगे that we will ensure that all of our women, all of our girls are treated with respect, with love, with equality, all in our homes, in our offices, in our streets, in our communities, in our nations, and in our world. And that we will give that love, that respect to Mother Earth, Mother Nature, protecting, preserving, and serving all forms of the Divine Mother Goddess. Then every day will be Women's Day. और सचमुच every day Women's Day होना चाहिए। आप सोचो, नारी शक्ति के बिना क्या हो सकता है एक दिन में? कुछ नहीं हो सकता है। तो every day should be Women's Day. Every day should be the day we recommit ourselves to our daughters, our mothers, our wives, all of the women in our beautiful society, our beautiful nation, and our beautiful world. और आज अपनी बीच में हैं श्री के पित्ती जी, जिन्होंने अपनी समर्पण से, अपनी लगन से, अपनी डेडिकेशन, अपनी कमिटमेंट, अपनी दृष्टि से, संस्कार चैनल के माध्यम से और इतनी अलग अलग programs, projects के माध्यम से, he's bringing this culture, these sanskaras, this inspiration. It's very easy to bring information. अधिकतर मीडिया हमको information देते हैं. आजकल वो information भी fake हो गया, तो उससे क्या फ़ायदा है? लेकिन information के साथ साथ हमें inspiration चाहिए. और पित्ती जी और उनकी कंपनी के द्वारा जो inspiration सब लोगों के घर में पहुंच रहे हैं is so beautiful and such a great blessing. केवल भारत में नहीं बल्कि पूरा विश्व में इतनी countries उनकी channels पहुंच रहे हैं, connecting people back to their nation, back to their culture, back to that Sanskriti. So मैं इतनी खुश है कि श्री पित्ती जी, उनकी परिवार और आप सभी लोग जहाँ जहाँ से आप आए और आपकी परिवार, आप सभी हमारे परमार्थ परिवार हैं. तो a beautiful welcome to everyone. और अब अपनी दिव्य माँ गंगा जी की आरती.
कर्पूरगौरं करुणावतारं संसारसारं भुजगेन्द्रहारं सदा वसन्तं हृदयारविन्दे सदा भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि. ॐ जय गंगे माता मैया जय गंगे माता जो नर तुमको ध्याता जो नर मैया जी को ध्याता मनवांचित फल पाता. ओम जय गंगे माता. चंद्र सी ज्योति तुम्हारी जल निर्मल आता
जल निर्मल आता.
शरण पड़े जो तेरी शरण पड़े जो तेरी सोनर कर जाता. ओम जय गंगे माता. पुत्र सगरे के तारे सब जग को ज्ञाता
सब जग को ज्ञाता.
कृपा दृष्टि तुम्हारी
दया दृष्टि तुम्हारी
त्रिभुवन सुख दाता. ओम जय गंगे माता. एक ही बार जो तेरी शरणागति आता,
मैया शरणागति आता।
यम की त्रास मिटा कर, यम के कष्ट मिटा कर परम गति पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता। मंगलकारिणी मैया तू है सुखदाता,
मैया तू है सुखदाता।
तेरी ही गोद में आकर, शरण में आकर मन शांति पाता। ओम जय गंगे
माता।
ब्रह्म स्वरूपिणी मैया जो तुमको ध्याता,
मैया जो तुमको ध्याता।
तेरी ही दया से सोजन, तेरी ही कृपा से सोजन सदगति है पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता। आरती मात तुम्हारी जननित गाता,
मैया प्रेम सहित गाता।
दास वही है सहज में, भक्त वही है सहज में मुक्ति को पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता। ओम जय गंगे माता। मैया जय गंगे माता। जो नर तुमको ध्याता, जो नर मैया जी को ध्याता मनवांछित फल पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता। ओम जय गंगे माता। मैया जय गंगे माता। जो नर तुमको ध्याता, जो नर मैया जी को ध्याता मनवांछित फल पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता। जय गंगे माता। जय गंगे माता। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव, त्वमेव बन्धु च सखा त्वमेव, त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव, त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु
मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः।
जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
राधा रमन हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल।
जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि
नवनागर किशोर नवले रसिया, प्यारो ब्रिज को छैल काना मन बसिया।
नागर किशोर नवल रसिया, ब्रिज को चैन कान्हा मन बसिया।
नवनागर किशोर नवले रसिया, प्यारो ब्रिज को छैल काना मन बसिया।
नवनागर किशोर नवल रसिया, ब्रिज को चैन कान्हा मन बसिया।
करे कालंदी कोल किलोल, जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल। जय राधा रमन
जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
अंगड़ाई ले मृदु मुस्कान से, गजनीली तिरछी चितवन से।
अंगड़ाई मुस्कान से, कजरेली तिरछी चितवन से।
अंगड़ाई ले अंगड़ाई ले अंगड़ाई ले मृदु मुस्कान से, गजनीली तिरछी चितवन से। अंगड़ाई ले मृदु मुस्कान से, गजनीली
तिरछी चितवन से।
सुखदास बिका दिन मोल, जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमन, जय जय राधा रमन, जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल। 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 जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमन हरि बोल।
जय राधा रमण
पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
और पूज्य स्वामी जी की ओर से मैं श्री पित्ती जी और उनकी परिवार को एक रुद्राक्ष का पौधा दे देती हूँ. Here at Parmarth, the only gift that we ever give is the gift that keeps giving.
Charuji, I think it should be live any minute.
Yeah, we're already live. Now we need to sort it so that only 2 people come on the screen. Pranam Sadhvi Ma, good evening and a very happy Women's Day to you. You are a
Thank you
symbol of
so much.
Shakti, and it's such an honor to be in conversation with you today.
I'm so happy to be with you, and what a joy to celebrate Women's Day together in this beautiful, beautiful way.
And you're looking lovely with Ma Shakti behind you. And as I was telling you, that's one perfect frame. But, you know, Ma, since morning, I have been noticing so many messages on Twitter, on Instagram, on my WhatsApp even, where so many people are saying that why are we even celebrating Women's Day? Why should every day not be celebrated like a Women's Day? And why are we picking out one day to celebrate the essence of womanhood? And I was wondering the same thing myself, and I thought this should be my first question to you today. Why a special day?
So it's a great question. और actually मैं अभी भी मतलब आधा घंटे भी नहीं हुआ गंगा के किनारे in our Ganga Aarti मैंने यही बोला कि every day should be Women's Day. That was literally not even half an hour ago what I just said on the banks of Ganga in the Aarti. But here's the thing. Yes, of course, every day should be Women's Day. And every day should be Mother's Day. And every day should be Earth Day. And every day should be Water Day. And yet, we have these days, the United Nations, in most cases, these days come from the United Nations, has allocated certain days. And what I feel like is something is better than nothing. If we don't have these days and we just say, well, so every day Earth Day, and obviously it should be, every day should be Environment Day. There's not one day we can live without oxygen, without our trees, without water, without Mother Earth. But if we say we're not going to have these one day, kyunki we're just going to celebrate every day like that, the dilemma is we tend to forget. And this is where you can think of it as a ritual. You know, when we do pujas, when we do rituals, rituals don't bring God. Rituals are not that which somehow creates divinity or connects us to the divinity. Rituals are literally that which they remind us. They pull us out of our normal, busy, distracted day and mindset. And they force us for a few minutes to remember God. They force us for a few minutes to focus on the divine and on our oneness with that divine. So in the same way, yes, of course, every day, every minute, every moment should be Women's Day and Earth Day and Environment Day and Water Day and Mother's Day and Father's Day, may I add. We shouldn't forget the beautiful gift of fathers in all of this.
Absolutely.
And yet, having these one days, you can think of it just like a ritual. It's this opportunity to stop and to remember and to recommit ourselves. It's like celebrating anniversaries. Well, so you're married 365 days a year, not only one day. एक ही दिन क्यों anniversary मनाते हैं, right?
Yeah.
ऐसे नहीं कि you're not married 364 days, then साल में एक दिन you're married, वही आप celebrate करते हैं. Every day should be a celebration. And it's very nice, साल में एक बार, to just at least have that opportunity to stop and to remember that connection, to remember that love, to remember the importance of all of that relationship.
Absolutely. And I love your analogy. It's like, why do we celebrate an anniversary on just one day? We're married throughout the year. And that analogy is going to stay with me, Ma. But, you know, not just in our country, the world over, there is a lot of gender disparity. And we work towards equality. We work towards being gender neutral, but the way is really long. And I think the struggle is great here in India. And I'll talk about India because this is where both of us are based. This is where we have been working. I know you have been working throughout your life, but more so during the months of lockdown and during the pandemic. You have focused on making sure women are looked after, whether it comes to their medical needs, their menstruation needs, their educational needs, their nutritional needs. So why is it that this struggle to achieve gender neutrality, even though so many of us are working for it night and day, is taking so long to achieve?
पूज्य स्वामी जी हमेशा कहते हैं, जो खोया इसका गम नहीं है, लेकिन जो बचा है किसी से कम नहीं है. And I think that's such a beautiful way of thinking about all of these situations in which we have achieved so much, but we know that we have so much more to do. Yes, we've made great strides, and we have. Just realizing how much more there is to do shouldn't negate the strides that we've made. If you look at where India and so much of the world was 50, 100, 200 years ago, and you look at where we are today, we've made huge strides, and we should celebrate it and we should honor it. And we should celebrate and honor the women and the men who have been pillars of making these strides. And we recognize कि बहुत काम बाकी है. There's a lot left to do. And so we keep recommitting ourselves. The reason I think, Charuji, that it's so hard and that it's taking so long is this is something that is deeply ingrained in who people are. And if you're simply looking to change a simple action, in many cases, you can do that quickly. You can change a policy. You can enact a law. You can enact a fine. You can enact a reward. People tend to move very well and very quickly, either with the desire for a reward, the fear of a punishment or a fine. So a lot of behaviors and trends can be fixed like that. But this is one that is so deeply rooted in families, in relationship dynamics, that it feels, I think, very, very personal for people. We're not talking just about gender equality in the workplace. The same people who are discriminating against women in the workplace are the same people discriminating against them in their home. So they go together. How people live in the home with their families, how they think about themselves, then comes into our workplaces. It comes into our societies. And so it has to be something that is changed at the core. And by the way, this is not just something men need to change. Actually, it is something that women need to change. On a very sad level, a lot of the problems stem from women themselves agreeing to be weak, subservient, exactly. And women who bring other women down. You know, one of the greatest ways that women are oppressed across the world is through being made to believe that they are their bodies. All over the world, you look at commercials for cosmetics, whether in America, we're trying to make people look tan and exotic, whether in India, we're trying to make them look fair. But the amount that is being spent on advertising for cosmetics, the amount that women spend on cosmetics, on dieting, on various clothing that makes them look thinner or fuller based on how they think their shape should be better, taller if they feel they're too short. I mean, is there anything more oppressive than high-heeled shoes because women think that, you know, they should be taller or their ankles should look thinner, and so they wear shoes to make them look like that, crippling themselves? So you think about what we've done culturally to women and how the mindset of women about our own selves has been so corrupted. How many women and girls around the world wake up every day and look in the mirror and say, oh my God, I'm so ugly. I hate myself. I'm so fat, or I'm so skinny. I hate myself. That is where we agree to be oppressed and subjugated. Because if we woke up every day and long before we looked in a mirror, we said, I am divine. I am the embodiment of the divine mother goddess. And when we looked in the mirror, regardless of what we saw, we were able to say, hey, wow, Deko maa ka naya swarup. Deko ye maa ka thoda sa moti wali swarup. Ye maa ka thoda sa patli wali swarup. If we were able to say that, to do it in that way, with love for ourselves, acceptance of ourselves, awareness that we're not the body, then when men treat us like bodies, we wouldn't so quickly agree to go along with that, because domestic violence, sexual violence, rape, molestation, these are horrible, horrible violences against women's bodies. But they're not the only violence against women's bodies, because women themselves thinking that their body is just an object, because it's what they've been taught, it's what they've been indoctrinated to believe. That is also violence against women and against our bodies. So we have to end all of that. And that's where it really is so deep inside, and it permeates every aspect of our culture. It permeates what we eat, how much we eat, permeates our cosmetics, permeates our fashion, permeates advertising, permeates our relationships, the gender roles in homes. We all kind of agree, okay, this is so-and-so's role, this is so-and-so's role, or this is the woman's role, this is the man's role. And then you start talking about gender equality, and it cuts very, very deeply with people. So I think this is why it's taking so long. But have faith. We are getting there. I agree we need to move faster and stronger. And this is where it's so important for all of us to come together. But we need to realize changing the policy isn't enough. Changing the laws isn't enough. It's important and it must happen, but it isn't enough. We must begin with changing how women speak to themselves, think about themselves. Look at matrimonial ads. Is there a matrimonial ad that you've ever seen of any young Indian woman that doesn't say fair-skinned beauty? Ye batao. Tamil Nadu say fair-skinned beauty. Well, though in South India, They are exquisitely dark. They are exotic, dark-skinned beauties. And you don't think that the dark-skinned beauty who had to write a matrimonial ad saying fair-skinned, आपको लगता नहीं है कि उसको अच्छी तरह से पता है कि मैं गोरी नहीं हूं, मैं काली हूं? फिर उसको लगता है कि जब तक मैं झूठ नहीं बोलूंगी, पति नहीं मिलेगा. झूठ बोलने से ही पति मिलेगा. So we've made her feel horrible about the color of her skin. Something, of course, she can't change. She has it forever. Something she sees every time she looks in the mirror. And we've taught her that without lying, you're not lovable. Who you are at the core, as you are, is not lovable, not good enough, not the right size, not the right shape, not the right color. What can be more violent to the heart, to the mind of this young girl? So the violence against women, the gender inequality needs to be addressed very, very deeply. And until and unless parents गौरव से नहीं कह सकेंगे कि my dark-skinned exotic beauty, we're not going to get anywhere. As long as we have to say she's fair-skinned to get her married, there isn't any equality, there isn't any empowerment. So we have to start it on the inside.
And Ma, you know, one thing you just said really resonated with me. You said that a lot of this comes from us, from women themselves. And a lot of these norms we are adhering to because we think they have become important for us. So women have allowed society to define them, to put them in a box, and to stereotype them, if I can use that word. So, you know, the way you look, it's supposed to be a certain way, or at a certain age, you're expected to get married. And if you're not married and you want to focus on your career, something must be wrong with you, so on and so forth. So there's a whole long list of things which shows that how women judge themselves and find themselves to be lacking, and nobody else is at fault because we are not speaking out for ourselves. जब हम अपने लिए खुद खड़े नहीं हो सकते तो कोई और हमारे लिए कैसे खड़ा होगा? But taking on from that, माँ, मैं एक चीज और ऐड करना चाहती हूँ. बहुत सारी स्टीरियोटाइपिंग हम खुद करते हैं, लेकिन बहुत सारी स्टीरियोटाइपिंग हमारे ऊपर थोपी भी जाती है. एग्जाम्पल, ये लड़की है, इसको गाड़ी चलाना नहीं आता. ये लड़की है, अगर ये डॉक्टर भी बन रही है तो इसको ना गायनेक बनना चाहिए. ये लड़की है, अगर मेरे जैसे वकील है तो इसको मैट्रिमोनियल केसेस ही लेने चाहिए, क्रिमिनल केसेस के लिए सूटेड नहीं है. So the kind of stereotyping, labeling that exists in our society, both made by others and created by women themselves, sometimes make it difficult for a free-spirited person to break free, because breaking free means आप अच्छी लड़की नहीं हैं. एंड ये अच्छी लड़की नहीं होने के लेबल से जब लड़कियां डर जाती हैं, they go back to living in that box. It must be suffocating.
लेकिन चारू, ये याद रखो कि शायद आपको लगेगा कि you can't break free, or that the stereotype is such that मतलब कुछ नहीं हो सकता. But just take your beautiful example. Just say in your situation, being a lawyer, ठीक है, तो stereotype that is thrust upon you says matrimonial ही करना है क्योंकि लड़की है. लेकिन यदि आप matrimonial में जाने के बजाय criminal में जाओगे, maybe the man or the 2 men or the 10 men or the 100 men or the 100 men and 100 women who had the stereotype that said matrimonial hi karna chahiye, maybe they won't change. And I'm not saying they will change, because a lot of times people's mindsets don't change. Lekin, every young girl who sees you, every young girl knows Charu ji ne kiya, मैं भी कर सकूंगी. How many young girls you are inspiring by setting that example. And in your generation then, your friends are seeing you do it, which means when you all become parents and you have children, you're not going to say to your children, "Acha tum ladki ho, iska matlab hai ki agar doctor banoge, to you must become gynecologist," because you've broken free. So rather than worrying that much and being that depressed about who we can't change, look at who we can change. Time moves only forward. Evolution moves only forward. We can't, go back to what our bodies looked like 10,000 years ago and try to sort of retrospectively change them. Evolution takes time. It moves in one direction, only forward. So in the same way, the people with those worldviews, with those stereotypes, who knows? Maybe they won't change. Maybe isi tarah se they will keep living and they will pass on. But the next generation, your generation, and the next generation who's watching you, they will be inspired. They will be different. They will be the cardiac surgeons, the emergency room doctors, the criminal lawyers of today and tomorrow. So don't despair. You are absolutely right. These stereotypes do exist. मुझे याद है शुरू में जब मैंने सुना जब भारत में आए हम एक free medical camp कर रहे थे यहाँ पे Parmarth Niketan में, because Pujya Swamiji has always been so committed to लोगों की सेवा. So at our ashram hospital, we had a free medical camp and many doctors had come to serve. It was a multi-specialty camp. And many sunat, there were men doctors and women doctors. And I heard someone talking about the doctors. तो वो बता रही थी कि हाँ वो lady doctor ये और मुझे लगा lady doctor मैंने कभी ऐसे शब्द नहीं सुना lady doctor. मतलब it's a doctor. And obviously it's either a man or a woman. But I had never heard anyone say lady doctor like that. Because they certainly don't say gentleman doctor. So why would they say lady doctor? It's a doctor. Why would it matter? And I was so sort of confused. And it really went very deeply inside and it stayed with me for a long time. And you realize that these stereotypes do exist. हम gentleman doctor कभी नहीं कहते हैं, लेकिन lady doctor जरूर कहेंगे. तो जब तक हम lady doctor बोलने नहीं बंद करेंगे, that stereotype is going to continue because it means there is something unusual, something different. It should be a doctor. You don't say lady teacher because we understand that teachers are frequently ladies. We only say lady doctor because so few doctors are women. And so we need to stop. Even just little semantic things like that. Stop saying it like that. And we need more and more women going onto these platforms. You're setting a great example. I know for me, there's so many programs I go to. Manch wale, badi manch wale programs. Jisme, you think, chalo, 30-40, kabhi 50 bolne wale log hai. Sabko jada se jada 2 minute milega. 2 minute milega. And you think, why necessarily go? Whole day you go and travel. In many cases, I go because I know I'm going to be the only woman on that stage.
Wow.
And that if I don't go, very likely there will not be a woman on that stage. And it's not about showing the older generation. It's not about showing the men. It's about showing the women, the girls, sitting in the audience or watching it on TV or seeing it on social media, whose parents are telling them, कि नहीं नहीं बेटी, तुम उसी रास्ते पे नहीं जा सकोगे, क्योंकि ये लेडीज का काम नहीं है, ये आदमी का काम है। हम सोचते हैं महात्मा मतलब आदमी, well, it just means great soul. Why it should be a man? Great souls can be in the bodies of women. There's no rule that says a great soul can only inhabit a male body. But in our semantics, Mahatma ka kya matlab? Admi, right? So for me, it's so important that the girls, the women seeing it, understand ki हाँ, अपने लिए भी जगह है, हम भी उसी रास्ते पे चल सकते हैं. Yes, of course, there's more men than women. लेकिन इसका मतलब नहीं है that the world of spirituality isn't open to women, that the world of sannyas isn't open to women, that world of religious leadership isn't open to women. It is. So we have to just keep setting that example, knowing that other girls, other women are watching, paying attention, using us as examples to say, नहीं 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 मैं कर सकूंगी क्योंकि देखो उन्होंने किया, मैंने टीवी पे देखा, मैंने फेसबुक पे देखा, ये भी लेडी और उन्होंने किया.
You're a trailblazer, Ma, like that, because as you rightly said, you are in a space where lesser women exist than men. And when you have a clean heart and you work hard, it's so easy to make a mark in the world. And I'm so proud of you every single day. And I look up to you so much and I love you so much. So thank you for showing yet another path to women. And before I get on to another serious question I want to ask you, I want to discuss something on a lighter note. So I'm an Indian girl, born here, raised here, living here. I have one perspective of my world, but for you, you have a multi-perspective because you are actually a foreigner who has chosen to make India her home. So you can have a more neutral or a bird's eye view of what is happening in our world. So how does it feel to make India your home, and what does it mean for India to be a home for women?
Beautiful. So for me, the home for me was Ganga first. Then it became India. And it's been such a beautiful, beautiful experience. And yes, as you've said, there are many, many places in which we need to work. But this is a world, remember, this is a culture in which hum Devi ki puja karte hain. It's the only culture I know of in which choti ladkiyan sadak se are brought into the home. Khana khilaya, kapde pehnaya, unki puja hoti hai. Amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful culture when you go back to the roots and the tradition that is so deeply rooted in worship of the women, worship of the Shakti. Aap dekho, hamare jab bhi Bhagwan ka naam lete hain, what do we say? Lakshmi Narayan, Sita Ram, Radha Krishna. It's always the woman first. And if you look at all of the words that are feminine in the Sanskrit and Hindi language, right? Prakriti, nature, feminine. Shrishti, the creation, feminine. The power of that creation, Shakti, feminine. So even rooted in our language, Dharti, the earth, feminine. Rooted in our language is this awareness of the power of women. हम अपनी देश को भारत माँ कहते हैं. इससे और सम्मान क्या हो सकता है नारी शक्ति के लिए कि हमने अपनी देश को माँ बनाया. यही सबसे ज्यादा सम्मान है. So India is a home, Bharat is a home for women in the culture, in the tradition, in the sanskaras. Durbhagya se, in our societies, with human nature as it is, with egos the way they are, with ignorance the way that it is, we've held on this upar level. तो देवी की पूजा फिर भी आज तक करते हैं हम लोग, लेकिन जो गार्ड में रहते हुए देवी, उसकी पूजा नहीं होती, उसकी सम्मान भी कभी नहीं होती, उसकी सुरक्षा भी कभी नहीं होती. That's where we need to bridge the gap. We need to simply take India back to its roots and to remind people that the women living in your home, the girls living in your home, in your communities, in your offices, in your corporations, in your businesses, at the grocery store, wherever you are, these women are the embodiment of the Divine Mother Goddess, and bring people back to that culture. So it's there in the culture, but we seem to have forgotten it in far too many cases, far too many ways.
Ma, we're all working on so many causes to empower and uplift women in our country. And so much needs to be done. And when you start from childhood itself, and so many disparities I actually started noticing during the pandemic. Like, if your school runs on a mobile phone, तो अगर एक गरीब परिवार के पास एक ही स्मार्टफोन है, तो वो घर के बेटे को दिया जाता है कि वो पढ़ाई कर पाए और बहनों को नहीं मिल पाता. वहां से शुरुआत होती है. उसके बाद चाइल्ड मैरिज है, उसके बाद डोमेस्टिक अब्यूज का प्रॉब्लम अभी भी हमारे समाज में है. डाउरी का इशू है माँ, और डाउरी का इशू हमने लॉज बना दिए, हमने पनिशमेंट्स कर दी, लेकिन फिर भी कम नहीं होता. और थोड़े समय पहले आपने देखा होगा, आयशा इस दुनिया से चली गई, और वजह क्या थी? दहेज. तो इतने सारे कॉजेज हैं जिस पे हम काम कर सकते हैं, लेकिन सबकी लिमिटेड बैंडविड्थ होती है. और उस लिमिटेड बैंडविड्थ में समटाइम्स इट बिकम्स सो चैलेंजिंग टू पिक दैट वन कॉज व्हिच इज द मोस्ट प्रेसिंग टुडे. सो हाउ डू यू प्रायोरिटाइज योर टाइम, एंड हाउ डू यू चूज व्हाट यू नीड टू वर्क ऑन नाउ इमीडिएटली?
देखो, they are all important and they are all interwoven. चाहे हम कहते हैं domestic violence, चाहे हम कहते हैं child marriage या dowry या inequality in the workplace, they're all simply different reflections, different sides of the exact same problem. बाहर से अलग-अलग मुद्दा लगता है, लेकिन अंदर they're actually the same मुद्दा. And that mudda is the one that says that women, girls, are less valuable, less important, less worthy than boys. नहीं तो एक लड़की के साथ इतने सारा पैसा उसके साथ क्यों भेजना पड़ता? बल्कि it should be the other way. The boys' family should be paying money to the girl's family for getting such a beautiful addition to their family, for having this Lakshmi come into their home. The idea कि एक लड़की अपने आप काफी नहीं है, अपने आप enough नहीं है, जब तक उसके साथ खूब सारे पैसा, खूब सारे jewels नहीं बेचते हैं, then she's not worth it. जब तक we think like that, what it means is that that girl is unworthy, that she's not enough. Similarly, in our schools, in our workplaces, when we prioritize the attention to the boys, the raises, the promotion, the good jobs, the important projects to the men, it's just reinforcing the same fact. The girls are less worthy. The women are less worthy. And this is what needs to be changed. So regardless of which angle we go in from, domestic violence is the same. That she's not worthy. She's just this body. She should be doing what I want. भोजन में नमक नहीं था या मिर्च नहीं था या ज्यादा नमक या ज्यादा मिर्च या टाइम पे नहीं था, ज्यादा जल्दी था, ज्यादा लेट था, जो भी है, तो उसको मार दिया. इसका मतलब है कि उनकी worth is मेरा भोजन. That the namak in my bhojan is more important than this Devi in my home. And that is the core value that needs to be changed, is that women are not their bodies. We are not objects or commodities to be bought or sold, used, abused, discarded. And until that changes, we're going to keep having all these problems. And it needs to go many things in hand, and each of us has the capacity to work in different ways. The laws need to be there, but then the laws need to be enforced. So through the judiciary, through the police, through the samaj, laws must be enforced. Penalties must be huge. The penalty for dowry should not be on the head of Aisha, that she gives her life. The penalty of dowry should be on the heads of the family that accept it. And that must be a very severe penalty. So we need our laws to be enforced, both through the judiciary, but also through the samaj. And we need the girls to know, I am not an object. I am not my body. I am not something to be used and abused and discarded. I am the mother goddess. I am the divine. When women know that about themselves, they pass that on to their daughters. Child marriage, too tragically, is something that is perpetuated by mothers who themselves were child brides. If you look at child marriage, you look at things that by God's grace don't take place in India, but they take place in Africa and other places, like female genital mutilation. You look at issues regarding menstrual hygiene and the lack of awareness that our girls are given. These three main things, sadly, are perpetuated much more by women, by mothers, by aunts, than by the men. The women themselves were child brides. The women themselves had their genitals mutilated. The women themselves didn't know what periods were until they started bleeding. And they're not able or willing to actually look within at the trauma of that, at the pain of that. And so what they've done is they've convinced themselves in their mind, koi baat nahi, aisa hai, or ye bilkul theek hai. And so they pass it on to their daughters. And so we need community workers to work with these women and help them understand ki jo aapko hua wo theek nahi hai. You should not have been married off as a child. Wo galat hai. You should not have been sent with dowry. Galat hai. You should have been told about what's happening to your body before it happened, because it's beautiful. It's a blessing. Wo galat hai. And only when they realize that will they be able to treat their daughters differently, because jab tak these women have to convince themselves ki theek hai, well, then they're going to keep doing it to their daughters. Kyunki if it happened to me and I survived, well, to she'll survive. So we need to stop it actually with the mothers and prevent them from continuing the cycle with their daughters.
And Ma, I'm so glad you actually got this up, this whole conversation, which shrouds girls and women in mystery, which prevents not just men from speaking about certain topics, but even women. As you rightly said, so many young girls don't even know what menstruation is before they actually start bleeding. And even then, the explanation that is offered to them is very sketchy. It's not enough for a girl to understand what's happening with her body with those few sketchy details, we see a change happening in society. We see movements towards empowering girls, towards educating girls, especially when it comes to their own bodies. But for the longest time, and especially when I was working with Mission Anivarya to get sanitary napkins to all the girls in our country, and 2/3 of them don't have access to it. That's such a mind-numbing number. I started realizing that it's not enough to just speak to the girls. On so many issues, it's not enough to only address girls and their mothers. We have to rope in the men. We have to speak to the boys at school as well, so they understand what's happening to their friends in school, what's happening to their sisters, what their wives go through when they get married tomorrow. But there's not so much of movement on that front, and we don't involve men enough when it comes to empowering women, when it comes to educating women. And I want to hear your views about it, and I hope that when people listen to you, they will take this up more seriously.
Absolutely, we must. You are absolutely right. Is the boys must be educated. They must be taught what is happening to the women's bodies, to understand also the beauty of it, to understand and appreciate, wow, my sister is this incarnation of Lord Brahma. Really, Brahma is the creator. He's created the universe. And then he put that power of creation in the bodies of women. He chose women to give that power of creation to. And so boys need to be taught, wow, that beautiful power of creation has been given to my sisters, to my friends who are girls, to my mother, to my cousins, to my aunties. Understand it, appreciate it, absolutely, as you say. This is a gender-full education we need, both genders. Everybody needs to have this same education of the beauty of what is happening in women's bodies, the beauty of menstruation, the blessing of menstruation, but also the importance of having access to products as well as knowledge of how to take care of oneself and keep oneself clean. It's also essential for boys from a very young age to understand how wrong violence against women is. And this is where it is so important for men, because men beat their wives in the home. But what they don't realize is their sons are watching this. And their sons are going to grow up and beat their wives. And also, their daughters are watching this. And their daughters are going to grow up and think it is okay for their husband to beat them. And so what I would ask every man who hits his wife is, do you really want your daughter to grow up thinking it's okay for a man to hit her? How would you feel about a man hitting your daughter and your daughter thinking it's okay? And if that doesn't seem right to you, well, then you need to stop beating her mother, because you are teaching her that a woman's role is just to take that physical beating from the men. And do you really want your son to grow up and beat his wife? Is this something we want to pass on? So we need to stop it at that level, but we also need, along with having the men realize the importance of stopping and having laws, as I said before, laws in our society, they should be punished. It should be intolerable. They should absolutely be held up in the society, in the samaj, and forced to change. But the women also should understand, when we choose peace and we decide peace in the home at all costs, that is true up to a level. And that level is our personal safety. Peace in the home, yes, at all costs. He's late. ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. He's a little rude. ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, जाने दो. But he threatens your body. He harms you. Not okay. And so to all of the mothers out there, all of the wives who are allowing themselves to be abused by their husbands, I would say, do you realize that your son is watching that? And he's going to grow up and beat his wife. Do you really want your son's wife to go through what you're going through because your son thinks it's okay? And your daughter's watching it. And she's going to grow up and allow herself to be beaten because her mother allowed herself to be beaten. And for that, we need women then to stand up, to do whatever they need to do. If they're not physically strong enough to fight back in the moment, okay. But then they need to use all their resources, whether resources in the extended family, resources in the community, whatever resources they need to reach out to, a helpline, domestic violence helpline, they need to reach out to protect themselves, to honor themselves, and also to ensure that their children don't carry on this cycle.
Absolutely. And Ma, to wrap up, I want to ask you a question which is very important in our generation, I will say, because we always talk about a sisterhood. We always say hashtag women for women, but how much of that is reality? It's a completely different thing. You talk about one thing, but society reflects something else, and it's not always women for women. It's not always women pulling other women up. Usually it's the other way around. If one woman is in a comfortable place, she doesn't want to share it with anyone else, and she will be the first one to mistreat the other females around her. And it's a very sad thing, but I have found it to be true. We have to build up this sisterhood, and this sisterhood can only start with us, because we cannot expect someone else to initiate it. And I would like you to talk about this sisterhood.
Absolutely. And it is such an important point. And I don't know why it is, but you're absolutely right. It is true. And I think what it is that I think that within women, as I was saying in the beginning, there is that sense of being not enough, not good enough, not worthy enough. तो जब थोड़ा सा कुछ मिलते हैं, एक पद, एक जगत मिलते हैं, थोड़ा सा सामान मिलते हैं, तो लगता है कि मैं इसको पूरा का पूरा संभाल के रख लो अपने लिए, because we fear maybe there isn't enough, maybe there isn't more, maybe this is all I'm going to get, maybe this is the only opportunity, maybe this is the only respect that I will ever have. And so the solution to it, number one, is for women themselves to truly know that wholeness, that fullness, that completeness, which we spoke about at the beginning. For women within our own hearts to take a stand against the voice in our own head that says you're ugly, or you're stupid, or you're fat, or you're skinny, or you're worthless, you're not enough. We need to take a stand against that voice. And we need to bring in a new voice that says, I am whole, I am complete, I am full, I am divine. And really speak that, know that, feel that within ourselves. And when we do, then it is much easier to exhale and allow others into the space, because we know there's an infinite amount of space. We know कि कुछ संभाल के रखना कोई जरूरी नहीं है. In giving, we receive. And we really learn that. We really learn that in creating space for others, we actually are creating more space for ourselves. But even deeper than that, we learn that beautiful sisterhood, as you say, because women absolutely can be women's worst enemies. But when women come together in sisterhood, there is nothing more beautiful. And so we need to start, and we need to be the example of that. And if you are a woman in power, if you are a woman with resources, whatever resources there may be, share, invite other women in, create space, whether it's in the home. Every mother-in-law once was a daughter-in-law, and she knows how difficult it is. But until and unless, this goes back to what I was saying in the earlier question, until and unless that mother-in-law really honestly looks at, processes, and lets go of the pain she felt when she was first a daughter-in-law, until she lets go of that and really is free, not suppressed it, not repressed it, not denied it, not projected it, but really was free, she's not going to be able to create that warm and loving space for her daughter-in-law, because she's going to be unconsciously compelled to recreate that cycle of trauma onto her own daughter-in-law. And this is where women working with women, women supporting women is so important, because together women can process trauma. Together they can share, together they can have that container and let go. Together they can recognize and accept, yeah, it wasn't right. Maybe they can even laugh about it, share stories, laugh, cry, and ultimately become free, so that they don't pass on trauma to their daughters-in-law. And in the same way in corporates, the vast majority of women who are at high levels in companies have gone through so much prejudice, so much chauvinism, so much discrimination in their corporate world. And if they can really honor that and see that and process that and let that go, only then they will be able to create warm, inviting, love-filled space for new young women to come in. Otherwise, it becomes like, the fraternities and sororities in college of the hazing, where they put each other through these horrible initiation rites just because they say, well, to mujhe karna pada, I had to do it. I was miserable. Why not them? And we carry this through our lives, in our families, in our corporate world, in our societies. So until and unless women come together to really help each other heal, and I think, Charu, we really should have group sisterhoods, and this is something that can be done on such a beautiful grassroots level, of women, mothers coming together to heal from being child brides, to heal from the domestic violence, to heal from what it was like to know that all of this money and jewels had to be sent with you, or they wouldn't accept you in the home. To heal from all of that, to let it go, so that we don't bring that out onto our daughters.
That's beautifully put, Sadhvi Ma, beautiful. And I am in complete agreement with you. This sisterhood needs to form at the grassroots level, and we must start working towards it. I'm always your faithful lieutenant. Whenever you call for me, I will come and I will do my best, and I will work around the clock to make this ecosystem of ours an ideal place for women to thrive in. And yet again, I want to tell you how blessed I am that I get to be in your divine presence on this auspicious day, when we talk of women, when we talk of uplifting women, and your guidance goes a long way in guiding me in my life. I love you more every time I meet you. Thank you so much, Sadhvi Ma.
It was so, so beautiful. And I'm so proud of you and the wonderful, wonderful work that you are doing and the great leadership role that you are playing for so many women in so many sectors and in so many ways. And that is what this country needs, that real Shakti of the young women. And I'm so glad that you are there as a beautiful, beautiful leader of that. And it was so wonderful to spend this time together on Women's Day. And so, so much love to you, sweetheart.
Pranam, Ma.